I don't know, but oh my gosh, we're live. Hello, everybody, and welcome to the TUF Woman table. As you guys come in, say hey. And I also want to ask, as you guys come in, if you would let us know, whomever pops in first, that you can hear us. I know I've had some people like on StreamYard and stuff, they've had some technical difficulties. And I know we've had some in the past. So if you guys come in and we are not, we can't hear us, let us know. But if you can, let us know as well. So again, say hey, let us know where you're coming from, Facebook, YouTube, and what part of the world are you in? I'm going to start asking that question. What part of the world are you in? I think this is going to be fun. And if you think this episode is awesome, like I think all the episodes are awesome, please, please, please share this for us. And make sure you follow us on iTunes and YouTube so you can just, hear all these amazing stories. So without further ado, I'm going to drop into this awesome episode. We're going to be talking about holistic health and ways that we can boost our immune system naturally, talking about mental health, spiritual health, why all these things are integral and important in the big picture. And my guests here are going to throw down, no doubt. So without further ado, hello and welcome to the TUF Woman Roundtable, you guys. This is the table where I invite some amazing people to pull a seat up and join together in creating epic conversation. At TUF Woman, I believe that all people have the power within themselves to live life authentically, free from fear, confident in who they are, and empowered to go out and live a life that sets their soul on fire. I also believe that by one person showing up in their power, we give other people permission to step into their own power, thus giving us the opportunity to rise together. Y'all, I lost my breath for a second. Through this joined rising, we move ourselves and humanity forward to a more beautiful way of living and being. So pull up a seat, tune in, and join us as we create epic conversations that move and remind everyone of how truly powerful we are within. Oh, look. Amanda says, hey. Oh, good. She can hear us from Georgia. Okay. Yay. I have to shout out Amanda. She is part of, Amanda, you'll have to put it in the comments, but she's part of a company that deals with all natural products, like truly natural products that you can use, like your skin, like you could use, and it doesn't cause any issues. So props to her for doing her part, eating better. So I'm very happy she is on here. All right. And also one more thing, if you guys catch us on the replay, #replay. All right, you guys. I'm so excited. I'm so excited to talk about this. As we all know, we are kind of, I don't know what the correct word is for where we're at with COVID. We're somewhere in it. We're somewhere. But I was talking to the ladies before this. There was not a lot of emphasis, in my opinion, on health overall and how to boost ourselves naturally. It was a lot of emphasis on obviously the masks and what pill was better and vaccines and all this other stuff. And I don't feel like there was enough emphasis on how do we create, like, this was a new one, that kind of your gut microbiome. Like, why is that important? What does that do for you? And, just why is it important to build a natural immune system? Like, not to stir up nothing, but you guys, but it killed me when they said that we should stop going outside, really, and I said, stay away from dirt and everything. What? But anyways, just okay. So anyways, what I'm going to do is introduce my guests, or let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to bust into this conversation, which I think is going to be great. And the goal is to give you guys things that you can take away to implement in your own life today. So without further ado, I'm going to let my first panel guest introduce herself, Vera, and then Jen, and we're going to get going.
Hey, awesome. Thank you for having me, Ashley. It's always a pleasure to be here. So guys, if you listen, definitely say hi, and you are in for a treat, because we're not going to take this lightly. We're going to take it as, myself as a holistic nutritionist, I work with women who wants to get better, who wants to heal themselves from emotional eating, who wants to finally win over constant battle of diets and dieting and binge eating and feeling lost in their own bodies. But the main reason why I'm helping women is to create this collective shift in the world, to create this collective shift in the health, and actually start emphasizing things which matters. And as Ashley already said, we talk about the gut microbiome. But if I will tell my clients you're going to be closed in a bubble and you're only going to be eating these foods every single time they're going to leave the bubble, everything will go down. So And this episode, really, really what I want to talk about is, like how to actually see in between the lines and how you can support your health in the natural and holistic way. So you don't have to go on, I don't know, I'm not gonna say anything bad, but you don't have to go on like a 20 days of a super healing retreat, but you can actually implement these things in your day-to-day life.
Amen. Oh, yeah. All right, Jen, my next gift.
Hi, I'm Jen. I'm a wellness coach and Marconic energy healer. I deeply, deeply believe that in order to attain whole health, you have to really focus on mind, body, spirit. There isn't only one area that needs to be focused on, and then you leave the other aside. So for me, it's really about touching every area. And like Vera, it's things that you can do on a daily basis. And if you implement them immediately, you immediately start seeing shifts in a natural way. And, again, I'm all for the all natural, organic, heal yourself from the inside out motto.
I was going to say, it's like there is a saying, and I cannot remember now who says it. It's very famous. It's like, food be thy medicine. Let food
It's Aristotle.
Who was it?
Aristotle.
Okay. I was like, the name just getting away from me. And I'll introduce myself real quick for anybody who's new to the show. I had that thought yesterday or a couple days ago. I was like, you really need to introduce yourself more. I assume people just know who I am. But I'm Ashley Ingram. I'm the host of the show for anybody who's new to it, and even for anybody who's been around. I am not a holistic nutritionist or a holistic coach or anything like these ladies, but I used to be a personal trainer. I've been working in like the health field for some time. I was also a pharmacy technician for like 5 years. So I've seen both aspects of it. And just on my own journey. So I've gone a lot further down the holistic health path, and I've seen what it can do. Like I've dabbled, and I say dabbled because I think I've talked to Vera, like I've done all this research and had to really take a longer path, I think, to find where I needed to go. But I have a lot of experience in the more holistic way of eating. So just eating more natural stuff and what that's done for my own body, especially my gut health. So I'm going to like interject some personal stuff to these ladies' expertise and wonderful. And actually, Jen and Vera, I'm so glad yours, because we're talking about energy a little bit. So I want to talk about the energetics of food and why, and eating and all that, and why that's important. But first, I want to talk about the state of holistic health and why you guys, why it's been so important in your life. Like, what part has that really played in your own personal experience? And Jen, you want to start?
Sure. So I started on my journey about 9 years ago. When my first daughter, 14 years ago, I started more, better foods, more organic, but I found myself overweight. And so I started doing little things, and the more I was getting close to my goal, like there was something missing. And so it wasn't only about the workouts, it was about the foods I was feeding my body. And it wasn't just the foods I was feeding my body, it was about paying attention to how I felt when I was eating those foods. We all think, certain foods are the health foods. They are perhaps for some people, but what we forget, or what most of us don't know, if you don't look any further than what's in front of you, is that we are all unique and our bodies are all unique. And although a lot of foods are good for everybody, they may not be for you. So if you're not used to paying attention to what you're eating and how you're feeling after you eat it, it's really hard to find the foods that are good for you. I was eating what I thought was, a decent diet. I mean, it wasn't perfect, but there were things that kept coming up, little aches and pains that were kind of normal for me, if you will, because that's just what I had been feeling for years, until I took an intolerance test, because I thought I knew something was wrong, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. And the slew of food that came back that I was intolerant was like, wow, it just like kind of blew my mind, because it was like healthy foods, pineapple's good, but there was something with the enzymes that weren't quite fitting for me, so it was starting to pay attention and being mindful of how I felt after I ate. And when I started doing that, it was insane. It's like, oh my gosh, this is what it's like to actually feel good. Like you don't have that little bloat, you don't have that, stomach ache or, so it got me diving a lot deeper into nutrition, along with the fitness. So, I was getting results with the fitness. It wasn't the fitness, it was really nutrition, that was kind of not the bigger part, but equally important. And then, the mindset. And so it was kind of that brought me down this whole rabbit hole of, how far can I go with all of this stuff? Yeah. And 3 kids, it's really important to me to set the example and for them to know about healthy foods versus, junk food. And I have to say that I'm really proud because, the minute my kids have a sore throat or something's coming up, they know, they have a little ache in their body. We need to go to chiro. They have a scratch in their throat. They're going for the Manuka honey. They're going for the essential oils. I mean, my 14-year-old knows the protocol down to a T. So it's really important for me and for the family to, when you start them at a young age. I mean, I know for me, it took me, 3 years to get this. So hopefully for them, they get to learn it sooner and pass it on.
Yeah. And I hope we get to touch base on why that's, important too, to be starting from self. But I like all that. I've just really started emphasizing that with my kids and making sure that and like you said, it starts with ourselves, right? So,
yeah.
All right, Vera. So what is your story behind holistic health? Because I know that you focus on a lot of the mindset as well. And after this, I actually want to dive a little bit into, I think, a topic that'll be great with you ladies. But yeah, what is your background in holistic health and how it showed up in your life?
Wow. This question, I don't know why it always gets me, but it's really like the holistic health started coming up to me, I would say 5 years ago. Even though I have started my nutritional journey 14 years ago now, when I started my nutritional degree from holistic nutrition. It didn't click all together until I actually worked deep with the clients and I started seeing more and more that it's not just about the food we eat. It's about how we eat. It's about how we feel about it. That's how we, see ourselves as a whole beings with all our emotions and with all our fears. Because what we've been taught at school was literally, these are foods which are great for your gut, great for your microbiome, great for your immunity. So we all knew these all benefits, essential oils and supplements and how to source everything from the nature and how to eat well. But not until I started plugging in the mindset that, the mind-body connection and the psychology of eating, of why we actually eat and why we want to hide ourselves behind food and behind these emotions, that not until the day it started linking all together. And I actually started seeing like that was the biggest moment for me ever. I never thought that I suffered from any emotional eating or any problems because I was always healthy, always eating healthy. My family, everyone was healthy because they were all nurses or practitioners. So we all had a big emphasis on a healthy eating. And also we never had enough money to provide us with junk food, which was definitely a great thing. But what I want to say, like, not until I talked to one client and she was like my mirror. She was like, oh, I don't really have problems, but I do that and I do that and I do that. And we saw that how this dieting cycle was actually underlying even with me, keep searching for the perfect diet, for the perfect food to eat, for the perfect times to eat, for the perfect amounts to eat. And all of it led into absolute misconnection and disconnection of my body and mind. And my health just started deteriorating. So I was eating all perfect foods. But because I didn't listen to my body when to eat it and what to eat it and how I feel after, all of a sudden I became sick and I became not unhealthy, but I just wasn't myself anymore. And that was the biggest moment for me to actually realize that you may feel that you are eating the best perfect diet or organic, vegan, and I don't know what not. That's what's probably considered the most healthy diet, even though I don't really agree with that. I feel we all are different and we should eat different foods. But even if you think that you have the best diet ever, it doesn't have to be suitable for your needs and for your body. And that's a huge thing that everyone should realize.
So that actually leads nicely into the what I want to talk about first and foremost. So I want to ask you guys, what do you feel are the biggest and most damaging thoughts around health? Like actually having good health. Like what are some of the things that you guys see when people come to you? And those are like their mindsets around their health, whether that's like mental, spiritual, physical. Like what do you feel are some of the things you hear that are like pretty common and can actually end up being the most damaging? Because like a lot of what I've grown up, I've like when I was younger, I had one relationship with food. It was a bunch of like fast food, and that's what I knew to be, fine. And you not fine, but they didn't tell you. And it was like, I remember when I was coming up, my favorite one was like, butter is bad, eat margarine. And then and someone's like, God Almighty, don't put that in your mouth. Don't do it. So yeah, I'd like to hear from you ladies. What do you feel are some of the most, I'm going to use the term damaging things you've heard from people in their views towards like food and health and even their own health? Because I think it's important to touch base first before we go into like the eating part about why you guys, like what you both said, that the mindset and just the way you feel about your food, why that's so important.
So, who do you want to start?
Well, I think for me, the things that I see most is that women want the miracle diet. They want the miracle way to do things. They want the way. And the thing I always like, it's the way. You need to find your way. You need to work and find what works for you. When you eat, how do you feel? Like vegans, supposed to be the best diet out there. Just like you, I think we're all unique and we all have unique needs. And so one person may be fine vegan and one person may need the meat. One person may need, something different. I think it's really first and foremost, listen to you. It's the same with mindset and meditation. There is no one way. It's the way that works for you. And it's really about tuning into you and finding how you feel. I think the most damaging thing is to try to do it like somebody else because they got results that way. It's fine to kind of take guidance, but for me, it's really about each individual creating the way that works for them.
Yeah, I can totally relate to it because like if you said that, do it like someone else, because that's how we get inspired. You see that picture of a girl losing 20 pounds by doing crazy things. Maybe she already has them back on, but you don't know that. Right. Maybe she actually suffered a surgery or she suffered a horrible health problems from that. But because you see the inspiration of like she lost 20 kilos by getting on this pill, that's why you immediately want it.
And I think the image is bad too. It's, I always tell my clients, it's not about the weight loss. It's about how you feel. Throw that scale away and look at yourself in the mirror and how do you feel? It's about feeling better inside your body and feeling good about the reflection looking back at you. It has nothing to do with the scale. And I always take myself as an example because I weigh more now than when I wasn't fit because I've gained muscle mass. So you have to be able to discern and really check in with yourself, I think.
Yeah, the scale is a huge thing because we all feel like we have to fit in a certain measure. And even if you're going to go to GP, like they will tell you your BMI is this and that. But my husband, who is like super freaking lean, he's got about 4 to 6% of fat. And he's super muscular because he works out every single day at work, like actually physical work. His BMI is almost like over the obese, like not overweight, but almost obese. And I'm looking at him and said, well, that's why BMI, it's so misleading. And the same way the scale, but people are so, linked to it. I remember when I was at a school and we were 3 girls standing next to each other, each with exactly the same weight. Each of us looked totally different. Like when one was super, super skinny, I was like the middle, like a healthy, normal weight. And there was one next to me and she definitely had, I would say 5 to 10 kilos of extra body fat on her, but we had the same weight. So what does the weight say about you?
Yeah, I know. And then it's so sad because so many women still, like even with my clients, it's like it's one of the hard things to get away from them. Like just throw it out and they're like, but no, focus how you feel because you feel going to be more negative than the scale.
Yeah. The another damaging thought, which I would feel that a lot of clients come to me with, is that they feel like they need to have absolute control. That they need to know what they're eating, when they're eating it, and how it's gonna, how it's gonna actually act to them. And when something unexpected happened in their life, they feel like they failed. They let themselves down. Like I have one client, and she comes to me and she said, Vera, I failed again. I'm like, how did you fail? And she said, we had provided morning tea again at work, and I went for a muffin, even though I brought my own morning tea with me. And I said, that's not failure. That's just you didn't want to fit outside of that collective. You wanted to fit in. But the way you're looking at it, that's the failure. If you say, I chose to have the muffin because that's what everyone else did and I didn't want to miss out, and I can eat muffins, and so like she would be celiac or gluten-free or had any problems with wheat. She saw that disaster behind that, and that threw her out of control for the rest of the day and almost for the whole week.
So I want to ask
see that too. It's kind of like they go too hot and heavy, and then it's kind of like one small, off path, and they're kind of like crashing and burning.
Yeah.
And I was going to say, I see a lot of like self-sabotage, because I know a lot of people are like, I'm going to go on this diet, and they're just going, I'm going to just cut everything. And they're, I feel like, our relationships with food start very early in life, but I also feel like the messaging, especially the messaging that's promoted to women, is so destructive as well. And I have to ask you ladies, where do you think, or why, I guess, where do you think that, looking back, most of our relationships start with, with food start? Like how do you feel, how early on do we develop it, and how does that end up affecting us in life? Because I was never so much an emotional eater as I just had a very destructive relationship with it, because I saw food as my enemy. I thought I was, that's, I don't want to say stereotypical, but I was that 16-year-old that had the issues with food. And oh my God, if I eat this fry, I'm going to gain 10 pounds. And at like 5'5", I weighed 105 pounds. And that, for me, like you talk about body, I need to weigh, my minimum is like 165. And to some people, it's like, oh my God, but it's like, if you see me at 165, I'm really tiny, not very big. So yeah, I'd like your thoughts on, where do you think these thoughts really start developing? Because I think it's important to just emphasize a little bit more about why we need to understand how we view these things. How do we view our relationship with food? Like, why am I eating this? Am I actually hungry? That was a big thing. Like learning to ask myself, am I actually hungry? Like, am I really hungry? And so I love y'all's take on that.
I feel like, there are two things. Like, firstly, the relationship between food and your family and mom and the comfort starts when you breastfed. Because when you cry, you are given a breast milk. Like, you don't realize these things yet, but it creates a huge, like a strong connection between you and your mom. And that's why, mom or someone from your family always wants to provide you love by providing food. And then the biggest connection to all the emotional eating starts when you are a toddler. Because when you are upset, the easiest thing to do is give you something to eat. So stop crying. When you are super happy, let's say, let's go celebrate. Let's go out for ice cream. You feel like the food is linked to the achievements or the way we feel. So it really starts, like you might have a memories of you and your grandfather sharing a bag of Doritos every single time you were together, because that was your time together. And so every single time you will be sad because he's not there, you might actually start craving a bag of Doritos, because that's the emotion linked to the food. So it all starts at the very, very beginning of when you are actually making conscious choices about food, and even earlier than that, to my opinion.
Yeah, I agree. You were talking about the Doritos with your grandpa, and I can remember, and my grandpa passed when I was little, like he would have Twinkies, and that was our thing, like the Twinkies, and I'm like, oh my gosh, if I had my kids Twinkies, but yeah, I think it starts early on, like you said, when you're a baby, but I also think as you get older, I think the way you perceive food, we don't see food as nourishing us and giving us energy. We just see food as something that we do You know, and you get older and you see magazines and you see the link between food and the size and what society expects you to look at. Like, as you know, I remember being a young girl and being thin, but I still wanted to be thinner because on the cover of the magazines, they looked a certain way. And, you know, the promotions of all the diet everywhere on TV and on magazines, and everywhere you look, there's, you know, this new diet, and it's all the crazy stuff, you know, all the no carbs, all the no sugars. And it's like you were saying, Vera, it's like you see these women who lose weight and you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do the same thing because it worked. But the minute you stop doing a diet is the minute you start gaining the weight back. It's not about dieting, it's about lifestyle. It's about being healthy and feeling good. And I think, you know, starting at a young age, you're not taught that. I know for me, I was never taught, you know, pay attention to how you eat. It wasn't about eating mindfully. It was like, let's rush it, we can go do something else. You know, eating was just a necessity that we do, as something that we enjoyed necessarily. I don't feel like, you know, and my parents did the best they did with the knowledge they had, obviously. And so the foods that I ate weren't foods that I would necessarily allow my kids to eat, you know, every day. So I think every step you know, we have has some sort of impact. Everything you see when you don't know better, you can't do better. And that's one of the things, you know, I have two daughters, one who's 14 and the other's 12. And to me, it's really important for them to understand. And we've been doing this, gosh, we started homeschooling 6 years ago. And the first thing we did was like nutrition, and for them to understand reading labels and, you know, nourish yourself with real food, not food that has ingredients that you can't, you know, you don't know half of what's in there. Really focusing on how it feels to eat versus, you know, linking it to how you look. I think that's for me, one of the detrimental things, I think, growing up.
Yeah. I feel, sorry, I'm just going to step into it. I feel like there is, you know, no right or wrong to do, because a lot of people say, but, you know, like, I want to reward my kids somehow. So if I don't give them anything, like, I don't want to feel like a bad mom. And it's okay. It's okay to reward your kids with food, but they should feel other rewards as well. I remember when we were little, like, mom would take us for ice cream in the summer on Friday afternoon after school because it was our little treat. But when we celebrated, I don't know, daily occasions or something, we celebrated by acts. You know, like, we actually went for a walk, or we played together, or we did something as an act rather than link it to the food. So you had this beautiful feelings of like, if I've done something right, let's make ourselves feeling all better by doing something together. Or if you feel sad, she wasn't like, there's the ice cream or there's a cake that will make you feel better. It was literally like, okay, well, what we can make it feel better. Like, let's go out for a walk with a dog, you know, let's talk about it, let's play, let's go for a bike ride. And that's the most important thing, to actually link the pleasure points to rather activities than things.
I love that. Yeah, that was, I remember, I think one of my most vivid memories was always holidays, right? And it was like, in holidays with my grandfather, who's not here, and I always remember just like piling my plate full. And even now that still happens, but it's always like, I love that you talk about the mothers wanting to feed their kids, because I feel like, I always joke, but I don't think it's a joke, that my love language is feeding people. I haven't, like, an, you know, that was my primary career for the longest time, and I still do it, is like baking and cooking. And it's like, when people go, oh, you bake healthy treats, right? Yeah, totally bake healthy treats. Very healthy. I said organic flour and sugar. So that's healthy. But I want to take a second to really talk about just the awareness for a little bit more. But why, I'd like y'all's thoughts on this, because I've seen it from a pharmaceutical standpoint, as well as like a personal training standpoint. Why do you feel there is such a push, especially towards women, about diet versus lifestyle? Like, I'd really like your honest thoughts on why you think there's more of an emphasis on diet versus people sustaining an actual healthy lifestyle and what that entails. Because, I mean, you guys are right, and I've seen it enough. You know, that's what's pushed. So if you drink this drink, it's going to make you feel great. And I know people who are like, oh yeah, I had like 3 bangs today and I just feel like shit. And I'm like, is your heart okay? Is your heart okay? Is it still beating? So yeah, I like your thoughts on why you think it's such a diet culture versus actually helping educate people, because you talk about the knowing and the needing to know. And we live in a society that is filled with plethora of information, Yet that's not the information that's passed. We're talking about, oh, if you take this pill, you'll lose 25 pounds in 30 days. No, you don't even have to change your diet. That's my least favorite one. Don't even have to change your diet or activity level. Don't worry about it. It's just going to melt right off of you. So I like y'all's thoughts on why you think it's diet over lifestyle in our culture.
It's money. It's literally, it's money. Dieting industry is the most profitable industry in the world right now, earning $60 billion a year, and it's growing. So if their interest would be into actually providing you sustainable solution and lifelong solution for weight loss, they would lose you as a client. So they need to provide you with addictive thing. And because weight loss is about emotions, endorphins, and adrenaline, like you reach your bottom, but then you start something, so it spikes your adrenaline up and spikes your endorphins up when you see the first result. But you don't see that it all go down again, because you get to the bottom where the adrenaline spikes up again, and you will see different thing, which will bring you, oh, well, the last one didn't work, but that was probably my fault, because they make you feel it's your fault because you're not able to sustain it. And that's how they hook you up. Like, the best intention of a diet industry is to hook you up in a system, not let you heal.
And I think too, people like the quick fix. Like, what can you give me that I don't have to work too hard for, that I don't actually have to take time to think about it? Just give me that magic pill, hand it over in a silver platter, and let's just get it done. And like you said, they don't realize that the faster the results, the quicker they're going to lose them. You know, it's all about doing things consistently over time. And I think people just want it now. And I'm, I speak from experience because I did the yo-yo dieting. I did it for so many years, where I did the Atkins and I did the sugar-free and I did the calorie counting and some crazy stuff like the cabbage soup diet. And it was because I was looking for those fast results, right? But I wasn't aware, and I didn't realize the aftermath of all of it and the toll that it was taking on my body, because to be honest, I really didn't care. I didn't know, and I didn't care because my goal was, again, that girl on the cover of the magazine and, trying to fit into a size 2 and, the number on the scale. So I think that the mix of how much money can we make because we can sell them a fast result go hand in hand, and people don't even realize that they're being sold the crap, like the pills, those, what were they called years ago, Xena something. They were like these pills that you were supposed to take, and they were going to melt away the fat, and they probably destroyed your insides, So yeah.
Do you guys know about, remember Alli, Alli, I think it was. So it was a diet pill, and I remember someone telling me about it. And I'm going to just put this disclaimer in there. I'm not speaking about, I don't represent the company, so I'm not trying to blaspheme. I'm just using a personal testimonial. I feel like that's probably important to put in there in case somebody. But so I had a friend who said, have you ever read the back of the box, like side effects? And I said, no. They're like, well, it causes anal leakage if you don't do it right. And I'm like, what? She's like, yeah. So when the fat, whatever it does to the fat is done, the fat leaks out oil, right? Like the diet you're consuming along with it is like heavily oil based, so you literally seep oil out of your behind. And I said, you're kidding me, right? And they're like, no, I'm dead serious. Like, if you don't follow the diet, I'm like, what?
I think we had something similar in tech. We had something similar, and that was literally like, it doesn't liquefy your insides. The only thing it does, it binds all the fat particles onto it. Like, it's like there would be like a big sponge in your poo, which will just bind all the fat particles from the food. And because your poo will just literally become a big source of fatty things. And they all can't just hold together. They just start leaking. Yeah. So I've heard of this. Yeah. It's gross. And also what I feel like with diets, like they escalate, because we all start with the innocent diet of like, I'll just cut this out. And then once you progress, like first time you fail, you escalate into the more like horrible one, like a more, like a just crazy one. And then people are actually ending with the surgeries, and I'm like, oh my god, like people, that's not gonna help. Like to,
No.
it's not gonna help until you change it in here.
Mhm.
You will always be prone to putting a weight on because you haven't changed what's inside.
So that pivots us nicely into the aspect of becoming awareness and also introducing daily steps, because I think this is the other part you talk, and you guys have we've all talked on it about the getting there really fast, right? The getting to A to B like right now, like like, oh, it kills me. I walked by a magazine and it's like lose 34 pounds in 30 days, and I'm like, oh, what? I'm like, oh, okay. I'm like, all right.
They forget to put the disclaimer, gain it back in 14.
Right. So yeah, I want to talk about pivoting. It's like, how can somebody who's really wanting to become intentional about this, and this is including like your mindset, like becoming aware of what your story is, but how can we start introducing and implementing small steps and bringing that awareness back? So, because that's the most important part, like, like you guys ladies have touched on, that really is the most important part, because if you don't realize that every time you emotional eat, it's because you have an energetic trigger inside of you related to your mother or something, you're always going to continue, that's going to keep coming up. And that's to say for like everything that happens in your life, but right, I want to focus on the food and the health aspect of it. So what are some ways that people can start creating awareness and bringing themselves into a place of implementing healthy habits so that they do create the sustainable lifelong journey, instead of that diet roller coaster that we've all been on before?
I think being aware of your thoughts is the first thing, aware of your self-talk, and really, not being aware of every thought, because that's impossible, but every time you catch yourself in a thought that's bringing you, off path, just kindly redirect yourself. Don't judge it, just kind of work with it. I think the biggest problem is that we judge ourselves so critically. We're our own worst enemies when it comes to that. And the other thing is, a lot of people talk about, okay, let's remove foods from your diet. How about you start adding good foods? And as you add good foods into your diet slowly, it inevitably removes the bad stuff, right? If you add a vegetable, with every lunch and dinner, or, it's all in the small steps. And I always say slow and steady wins the race every single time, because it's not about deprivation. And I think that's what, we're so used to these diets where we're depriving our bodies of foods, and, certain foods aren't good, and don't eat carbs and don't eat that. Well, how about you find better choices and start adding those to your diet slowly so that you can make bigger changes long term, I think.
Yeah, that's great one. And I would definitely add to it, start looking at your patterns. Because, I might have clients who come to me and say, I eat so well and I eat so little that I can't eat any less. And then they go and binge eat in the evening or when something happened, because their body is literally taking over the control to save them, to help them to survive. And, we often don't see these things because we feel them as a failure, and we like to forget that we're doing this, because it's painful for us to remind ourselves that we actually failed in some way. So looking at the patterns, like what you're doing, like if you keep taking foods away from you, but you're not really replacing them with anything, or you're replacing them with supplements, that could only lead to you end up with 5 ingredients list you can eat. And that will restrict you in so many ways that you will actually have to fall out of the line at a certain point. Like it's inevitable.
And I went a little out, but I'd like to hear your ladies' experience with some of the more, I would say, detrimental things that you've seen as a result, like within your own life, of what it's been to live an unsustainable and unhealthy life. I know for me, just not sleeping like I'm supposed to. I mean, Vera, you've known me for a while now, so you've kind of seen a lot of my journey just in the last year. But it's been even more hectic than that. And I can say, like, what that's resulted in now is understanding that I drained my adrenals like 4 years back, and I never did anything to bring them back into balance. And it's like now it's like thyroid and adrenal issues together, and having to do like way more self-care because I just oh, I'll get along without any of that. I'll be all right. Be all right. No self-care. So I know what it's done. I know like that just I have to deal with, I don't have to, but I deal with more inflammation issues. It used to be that I jumped back from things pretty quickly, and now things take me longer to heal from. So I'd like your ladies, because I think it's just as important to understand why it's so important to bring about a sustainable life, because you can tell somebody all day long, will go figure out, go follow these things, and they'll go, well, why does that matter though? And so sometimes it's like, so I'd like to hear some of the things that like you've either experienced or heard from people, who have gone through these diet roller coasters and spent a lot of their life just not having that healthy relationship with food.
Yeah, I would say the main thing to realize is that diets brings more stress, and stress brings more problems in your body. And looking at the mind, looking at the body, as you said, inflammation, adrenal fatigue. And we often don't really look at these things as a signs, but we look at them as something which is wrong. So, when you don't sleep, when you, let's say, I've talked to a girl and she said, oh yeah, I usually sleep about 4 to 5 hours a day. And I'm like, holy moly, like how you can live like that? And she's like, yeah, well, I drank a lot of coffee and I drank a lot of that. So we actually don't see this thing as a sign, but we just put another bandage on it. Because when I'm tired, okay, what can I do? Eat something sugary or drink something with caffeine. But that's not going to solve the problem. It's like you have to look at the base of the problems, what it's in there. And the diet will never point you that way. So if you're someone who's been on a roller coaster of the diet, it's like they don't teach you to look at the symptoms. They will teach you to live with them and learn how to cover them. So, if you have a leaky anus, what do you want to do? Like, you just put some head in there, okay? You don't start looking at like what's the reason of it, because you probably never read that box.
I'm gonna start looking for a depends. What I'm gonna look for to cover my leaky anus. Okay.
Yeah, like if you are hungry, like Google, what am I supposed to do when I'm hungry? I'd say 9 out of 10 answers will be either drink water, occupy yourself, call a friend, go exercise. Are you really hungry? None of them, or like really, really tiny percentage of them will be actually eat. And that's the thing, like when we're hungry, it's a sign that your body needs something. Yeah.
And I want to take it back before, Jen, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but I was going to say, I think like you said, it goes back to that mother. It's like every time we cried, it was usually initially is like, oh, here, let me feed you. I remember having my kids being young. First thing, as soon as they cry, it's our natural habit. Here, let me feed you. Let me see if you're hungry. But yeah, Jen, I'd like your thoughts as well. And like, what are some of the more detrimental things you've seen from people just not living, or even yourself not living that sustainable lifestyle?
I think number one, fatigue is a huge thing. Brain fog is another. Irritability, not being patient, and I think not being happy overall, because, as I was saying earlier, I firmly believe that everything's interconnected and intertwined. Our bodies are so intricate, every single system is connected to the other. And so when you're not feeling your body right, when you have, inflammation in your gut, when you're not feeling tired because your body's not being nourished properly, when you're full of toxins, I mean, how can you can't go through your day with a clear mind. You can't have, you don't have the same amount of patience. There's just so much around it that it's not just about the food. It's about how you feel overall, and I always come back to the fact that I used to be in the same spot I'm now, a mom of 3, business owner, great life, but I used to see my glass half empty all the time. Like I was focused on all the things that I didn't have. I was focused on, the crappy image that was looking back at me in the mirror. And I was so unhappy with the body I was in, but I didn't realize how everything was interconnected, intertwined at that time. And the more I started doing things, the more I realized, yes, I can work out and lose some weight, but I'm still not feeling the way I want to feel. Okay, well, I can eat really, really good, and I can still not feel good because I'm depriving myself, because I'm doing these diets. It's great to eat salad. It's really healthy. But if that's all you're eating with 2 sticks of celery and you're going to bed starving every night, you're not waking up in the best mood. So I think that, you know, your mindset and your entire life really is, you know, shifted when you don't nourish yourself right. And I think every aspect of your life is affected. You know, when you have kids and you're not patient and you haven't eaten, you haven't slept, you know, it's kind of like a big ball of wax that just, you know, doesn't stop until you put the brakes on.
And if you wake up with a spot around your leaky anus, that's a really bad way to start your day, okay?
Even worse.
Sorry. I felt like I had to just throw that in one more time. That's gonna
I definitely get you.
Yes,
Oh yeah, you know what? Hey, listen, laughter is good, okay? Oxytocin is good.
yes.
So I want to start transitioning because we're actually getting the last 15 minutes. Like it goes so fast. Into solutions, resources, things that you guys know of, or just things that you recommend to your own clients that would be beneficial for someone. Before I have you ladies dive in, I want to suggest a test that I just came across that was recommended to me by someone who's doing it. Two people actually, called Biome. And they do a gut test, and then they do a whole health test, and they actually go into your gut microbiome and your body and everything. And they actually tell you what foods work with your body. Like, what foods do you need to eat more of? What foods can you enjoy? What foods should you decrease that are bad for you? Why is it bad for you? So, I haven't done mine yet. I plan on doing it soon. I'm just going to say it's a little costly. But I mean, if they're basically going to go in there and say, listen, this is your superfood. This is what's going to make it so you're not inflamed. And I think, you know, sometimes, you know, it's well worth the investment if it's going to help you not beat your head against the wall and go, oh, well, should I try like me? Like, should I try paleo? I'm going to try gluten-free. I'm going to do all these things. And then 5 years later, I'm like, why do I still have the same, you know, 10, 15 pounds still sitting around my waist that I had 5 years ago? Or, you know what I mean? So, yeah, I love your ladies' thoughts or just tips, tricks, resources that you can think of that will help people going forward to start creating sustainable life choices and really start building, especially like building up their immunity, because I know we didn't touch too much on that. So just building up their immunity. And hopefully we'll have another holistic health panel. We can talk about the importance of why, especially from a gut standard, about why it's important to understand your microbiome and like how that infiltrates into building immunity. But yes, ladies, I love your resources, tips, tricks.
Yeah, I would just love to follow up on this test you said. Like, I'm a big believer of finding out where is your gut right now. But you have to realize one thing, that with food which you change eating, like with a food which you change, your microbiome will change. So what's good for you right now and how your microbiome looks right now at this right point might not look the same way in a month time, and that's gonna definitely influence the way that you should be eating and the way you should be feeling and the foods you should be choosing. So this is a great thing to find out what's happening right now, but it's not a solution for future, because from my own opinion, your taste buds and your preferences will change from day to day. So where one day you will be thriving on a beautiful porridge with peanut butter and like a plant-based milks and berries, second days you will look at it and it will make you feel like, ugh, I don't even want to see that. And you will look at beautiful smoothie full of like spinach and ginger and oranges. So that's actually the better place to look into what it's needed for your body right now. It's into your body signs. So my tip, what I teach every single of my client, and this is like my super know-how, it's a 5-step of eating. So firstly, sync with your body and ask your body if you're really hungry. Like if your body, like if your stomach is growling and you definitely feel like, oh, I just need to eat something, yes, you might be hungry. But if you know you have eaten an hour ago and you just feel that it's something missing, it might be more emotional. But if you find out that you're hungry, definitely go and eat. Secondly, ask your body what it wants. You know, feel the food around you. Like some of my clients, actually, I have them to touch the foods before they will eat them. Like grab an apple, and if it feels great, your body will tell you. If it feels like this is not what you want, put it back. And don't be afraid to choose different things than you thought that you will gonna eat. So let's say one of my clients says she said she always had a salad for lunch. but she eat it regardless on if she felt like it or not. And some days she might would rather probably eat soup or leftovers from dinner than have the salad which didn't serve to her. So ask your body what it really, really wants. And that's the best way to actually know what your microbiome needs. Because when you are low in some sort of nutrients, your body will tell you by craving certain foods. Craving chocolate and craving sweets is a different thing. That's emotional craving. But if you're craving ingredients, it's like if you're craving oranges or if you're craving capsicum or carrot, that's a reason because your body needs either fiber or the certain nutrient. And then when you eat, like definitely eat mindfully. So be there with the food, not with the TV or with something else. And then check on yourself after you finish your meal. Was it enough? How are you feeling? Do you feel sluggish? Do you feel good? Do you feel bloated? Do you feel heavy? And then the fifth and the most important step is you have to release. You have to release the food and move on with your life. Because you already nourished yourself. You know it was good or bad. You already reflected on it. And now you have to move on. So that would be my tips. Absolutely.
I agree with everything you said. I think for me, one of the things that I always tell my clients is, number one, pay attention to what you're eating, like take inventory. What do you have for foods? And if most of your foods have a load of ingredients, then you need to shift because your food should be the ingredient, most of it. I'm not saying 100% because, pasta and all that, but, make sure that most of your food are the ingredients, not the other way around. One tip that I always give my clients is prep stuff ahead of time. If you can take a Sunday and prep healthy meals, and it can be, your snacks, you put them in snack size bags. Because I think one of the problems that I find with a lot of my clients is, but I'm in a rush, but I don't have time, but I'm on the go and I'm going to grab something, and it always ends up being junk. So planning ahead of time really helps. Once you get in the hang of things, you don't have to do that so much. But I know for me, even when I started, it was Sunday meal prepping. And I would make, 4 to 5 meals. And then all my snacks were in little bags, fruits and veggies, and just things that were easy to grab and go so that I didn't have to go for the junk. The other thing is not feeling guilt around food or not feeling that you have to eat certain foods and feeling that, oh my gosh, I ate that cake. Now I screwed it all up. I might as well just, keep going down that road. Rather just see food for what it is. You had cake. It was good. You enjoyed it. Was it the best option? Probably not, but it's done. Let's move forward. And maybe the next meal, have a juice or a smoothie or, really stopping to feel any sort of way around food, but to see it as nourishment. You're fueling your body, you're energizing your body, you're doing this to feel good. And like you said, Vera, is paying attention to how you feel after. Because as she was saying, when I did the intolerance testing, a year later, those intolerance tests would have come back differently because now I was eating a lot less of those foods because I was being mindful. When you're eating, pay attention to how you feel. And if foods don't feel good, then maybe back away a little bit. Find substitutes. Dairy was a huge one for me. I mean, I remember at a young age drinking like gallons of milk. And milk was something that I'm actually came back allergic to, dairy. So finding replacements that you can deal with. Don't switch foods to eat something that doesn't taste good, because who wants to eat food that doesn't taste good? And I think that's one of the issues with a lot of women. They think, well, eating healthy doesn't taste good. It tastes like cardboard, right? You're eating salads and cardboard crackers, but food can still taste good. Finding recipes that are, like Alfredo sauce, for example, it can still be good even if you don't have all the cheese and the dairy. There are, substitutes that you can find and that are better for your gut. So taking those small steps every day, every day be a little more mindful. Every day add something new that you hadn't been eating. Stop feeling guilty and just take it day by day. Pay attention and tune in. Your body, like Vera said, your body knows what it needs and it's going to tell you. But most of the time we're, so far gone that we're not paying attention, and we're so used to feeling crappy that we don't even know we feel crappy. So start paying attention and take those little small steps in the right direction every day, and pay attention to your mindset. If you keep looking at yourself in the mirror and you keep putting yourself down then you turn around and go eat a bag of chips. Maybe there's a correlation there. Maybe you need to change your self-talk a little bit, love your body for where it is, even if it's not where you want it to be. Because if you can love it now, then imagine, when you actually reach those goals.
Yeah, we often feel like when we want to change something, we need to change the portion size. So a lot of people say, oh, I need to eat less. But that's not actually about it. Healthy eating and holistic eating and nourishing your body and actually weight loss is about not eating less, but eating right.
Yeah.
Like my dinner portions are huge, but they are filled with 50 to 70% of vegetables on a plate. Different types of vegetables in different ways. Like some of them sauteed, some of them is roasted, some of them is in a stews or in a curries. It's not about it's not about cutting your portions down. It's about changing the ingredients on a plate to suit your needs.
And I'm gonna just add on top of that, and I love both y'all's addition. I think those are phenomenal. But also changing the mindset of like, oh, I'm gonna be on a diet for the next 3 months, or I'm just gonna diet for the next 2 months, because summer is like getting that summer bod, and then when winter comes, like I started focusing on like this was a big one for me. So I remember I'm a vision person, so I do a lot of like a vivid vision, like where do I want to be in a couple of years, and I started looking. It's like, well, how did I want to feel in that time? I didn't just like, where do I want to be? Like, how did I want to feel? And I said, I wanted to wake up every day and I wanted to have natural energy, not because I drank a big pot of coffee or took this. I said, I just wanted to wake up, be one of those people just feels really good when they wake up. No additives. Like I literally, I got out of bed like this, everybody, like, you know what I'm talking about? Like one of those people that's just like high vibes, super great energy. You're like, oh my God, is this? And I said, I knew that that's how I wanted to feel. And I had to ask myself, well, what does that look like? So for me, it was a lot of like, I wanted to get up in the morning early naturally, and I wanted to meditate because that feels good to me. That's something that makes my body feel good. And so for me, it was all about like, how did I want to feel, and really focusing on that awareness of what were the things that made me feel that way. So again, like what you guys said, back to that awareness is like, what foods made me feel good when I was eating them? Like, did I feel better when I got out of, eating like all this extra sugar? And, I know that if I drink milk, oh my God, tomorrow is really going to suck. It's like, that's going to be not a good day for me nor anybody around my sphere. And so, yeah, so it was just so for anybody who's out there, like, think about like, how do you want to feel, not like, oh, I need to be on a diet. Like, okay, in 3 months, like, how do you want to feel? Like, the other part was like when people talk to me about losing weight, well, why do you want to lose that weight? Why is it important? And for me, it stopped being about losing a weight percentage and just like, how did I want to feel about the way I looked at my body? Or did I want to feel comfortable in my body, and stuff like that. So I always tell people like focus, like, and you guys have said this a lot, just, focus on how you want to feel. How does that look like? What does that journey kind of look like to you? And start with what you can do right now. Because I think that for me, that was a big one. It's like, okay, I see it. I'm going to just jump right there. But nobody just wakes up at 6. Nobody just wakes up in their life and like every day just waking up at 6 a.m. doing an hour meditation and yoga. Like nobody just wakes up doing that. And I said, so again, back to like, I think what you said, Jen, is like, start now with where you're at. Because if you can do the stuff now, even if you're not at where you think you should be, then you're definitely going to be doing it down the road. So it's like, I knew that getting my mindset was right. Getting my mindset right was the first step. So it's like increasing this and doing these things that make me feel good. So it was getting used to that. And then, okay, now I'm going to add this layer to it. So I think it's like they talk about marketing and niching and all that. Get really good with one niche first and then start building and adding the layers.
Yeah.
So don't do all the things at one time, because it's just and you might end up with a leaky anus.
Because that's the thing, when you feel like you need to finally lose weight or stop your emotional eating or something, you feel like you need to go all in. And that's overwhelming. So you rather not do anything, or you rather try the diet because you feel like the lifestyle change is going to be too much for you. Like you're going to have to change everything you eat. You're going to throw all the food out of the house. All your family is going to have to start eating in a different way. That's not true. Like you starting your mindset in your head. You're starting to shift in your head and you're starting shifting your own foods. And then if your family wants to follow, they will follow. But it's not like you would have to cook 2 meals a day, like 2 different meals a day.
Right. Yeah, that's not happening. No. All right. So we're at the end, and this is the part where I don't get to do this so often on the larger panels, but because we just have a minute, I'd like to just, if you guys want to tell everybody where they can connect with you, and how, you know, what do you specifically offer, so they have that understanding. And then we're going to end this wonderful panel. This was awesome, you guys. Thank you so much. So yeah, we're going to go backwards this time. Jen, if you want to tell everybody about where they can find you, what's the best way to hook up with you? I have tagged you guys in this, obviously, but and also if you guys just want to drop links in the comments afterwards to anything, feel free to do that. But yeah, tell them where they can find you.
Awesome. On Instagram, it's whole_health_Jen. On Facebook, the Facebook page is crazy with a K and fit-ish. And also jengagnon.rocks is my website. I offer group programs as well as one-on-one coaching and masterminds that revolve around whole health. Again, I'm a firm believer in focusing in all areas of your life. I'm a firm believer in taking it slow and steady. So I focus on helping women where I take them where they're at and help them get to where they're going in a holistic manner, and also in a way that will be sustainable after the program's done. I always say I really like the women to be able to kind of take off. This is kind of, you know, your boot camp, and then you can take it further. So thank you very much for having me.
You're so welcome. Thank you. All right, Vera.
Awesome. So you can find me easy on Facebook, so Vera Prazak. My website is veraprazak.com. And my amazing group, which I would definitely recommend everyone who's looking for finding a way into holistic health, into healthy eating, and into losing the weight in the sustainable way. It's Eating for Happiness. So that's my free Facebook group for everyone. I will take it in the links. And I definitely support my clients on their long life journey. You know, it's not about the quick fix, but it's about finding and understanding your body and finding where are you suffering, where are you having the problems, like what is actually stopping you from losing weight, which is the huge thing. So why you always going in a cycle. And you know, aside of my private one-on-one coaching, which is always the top high recommendation for me, I just opening up a new membership. So it's Journey to Happiness with mentorship with Vera. So it's monthly membership to focus, to move you step by step to where you need to be in your goal. If it's losing weight, feeling great, the holistic health, mindset, everything you need in order to move forward without diets.
Hallelujah to that. Amen, y'all. No more diets. I feel like no diet 2021 should be a slogan. No diet 2021. No diet ever. But yeah, thank you ladies so much for coming on. This was awesome. It's nice sometimes to have like a very smaller panel because we, you know, I feel like it gets to be a little bit more of an intimate conversation. So I appreciate you ladies coming on here. Like, very awesome. You guys like kicked ass always.
Thank you for having me.
We had a lot of people liking stuff, and so just, you know, Amanda came and she had to go. So as like I said, you guys, if you guys catch us on the replay, #replay, please connect with these women, phenomenal women who are doing big things, who will help you switch your own mindset and challenge your own status quo, which I think everybody should do. Get up every day and challenge your own status quo, right? So you guys, as always, I will be with you for another amazing episode of The Table. We're going to have another amazing woman on Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Join us here or on YouTube, and look for 3 new episodes this month on the iTunes podcast and the TUF Woman podcast. I need to say like the name of the podcast. And go while you're there, if you're at iTunes, like, subscribe, let me know what you think. So rate me 5 stars because all these ladies rock. Okay. All right. I'll see you guys 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on Thursday. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.